Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. Today I'm going to be talking about my July wrap up. I know it's long due, but I'm finally in the right headspace to talk about it, and so that's what I'm gonna do today, and I hope you have fun. Alright, so I have my cup of tea here, and I would recommend you get the same for yourself because now I'm gonna start talking about all the books. I have all my details right here, and yeah, so I ended up reading 6 books in July, out of which 2 were physical copies and the remaining 4 were all ebooks I read from Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, so that was that, and all of these books except one, I believe, were romance novels, and I would say that overall it was an okay time reading. Now you have to remember that July was the time when I was in the depths of despair. I was in the depth of my reading slump, and I couldn't really read much, and that is why I was reading only these, you could say, mindless romances, because they didn't require a lot of effort from my end. So that's what I was reading. So all right, the first book we have is Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife by Julia Wolf. So in this book, basically we follow 2 people, Leo, I think his name was Leo or Luca. Yeah, so it's Luca and Saoirse. So what happens is that Luca and Saoirse essentially have the same friend group. So Luca and Saoirse, even though they've never met, they've heard a lot about each other. So when the story begins, we see that Luca and Saoirse have a kind of an almost one night stand, but then they go their separate ways. Things don't turn out the way they want them to, and then the next day, because of a twist of events, fortune or destiny or whatever you call it, it turns out they know each other. So they have these friend kind of like a brunch, and then they come across each other, and it's a shock. Obviously she takes it much better than he does. He's like, are you stalking me, and all of that. But yeah, and basically what happens is that Saoirse is in a position where she's single, so her mom is trying to set her up continuously, with different dates and everything, and she doesn't like it. So what she does is that she just fibs to her mom that I'm seeing this guy Luca, and he hears that. And now Luca is a person who is in a dilemma of his own. He needs to really repair his image because he's a CEO. So he proposes that they get married. How that's basically the plot. And she is also actually temping at his office, so it's kind of complicated that way because they're in the same work environment and everything. But yeah, since it's a romance book, and you guys already know by now that I only read romances where there is a happy ending, they do end up together, they do fall in love and all of that. So it's really fun seeing them interact, and this marriage of convenience, especially with how they interact with their troupe, because they have this common friends group, and so it's really interesting to see how it all pans out for them. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, so 3 out of 5 stars. The only thing lacking is that I think I would have liked to see a bit of the guy's perspective as well, because mostly it's just a girl, and I think it was just a girl. It's been such a long time I've forgotten it, but in my notes I've written that I would have preferred if we could have seen a bit more of Luca's point of view, especially with how his feelings evolved and all of that. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars to this book. Then moving on, I need to take a sip of tea, if I had it, a shot of vodka for this book, because this is such a disappointment, really. So the name of this book is The Unwanted Wife by Natasha Anders, and I rated it 1 star. I did not connect with it at all. I'm going to share the synopsis as it is with you all. Where is it? Alright. No one had ever looked at her and seen perfection until now. Delicate Teresa Noble has met her father's associates in the past, but the gorgeous Italian-born Sandro Di Lucy leaves her speechless. 18 months into their marriage, however, Sandro has turned to ice, desperate to escape a relationship that has proven to be as stubbornly passionate as it is quite cold and hateful. Teresa summons up the courage to ask for a divorce, but before he'll grant her request, Sandro demands something from Teresa, a son. The stalemate sickens her, never mind that Sandro has yet to introduce Teresa to the large family that means so much to him, or that Teresa overhears her husband on the phone with a mystery woman. Most damning is that Teresa senses in Sandro's treatment of her the behind-the-scenes machinations of Jackson Noble, her cruel father. From the depths of her anxiety, Teresa must seek an empowering truth oh my god, I can't speak. Must seek an empowering truth about the husband who calls her with such cold affection his Cara, his beloved. So the reason I rated it 1 star is because I felt like there was no chemistry between the two people. I understand that it was sort of a marriage of convenience, but it's supposed to evolve into romance. That's what we are expecting from this book, but there is no chemistry, there is no romance, everything is just so clinical. I wouldn't recommend this book to you at all. I just think it's not worth it. So that is the reason why I give it 1 star. And I'm not going to waste any more time speaking about it, and I'm going to move on to the next book, which unfortunately is another 1 star, but even then I feel like it wasn't as bad as the one that I was talking about, and maybe so I should change it to 2 stars, but whatever. So the next book, the third book here, is Scottish and I have been studying so much today and I cannot speak at all now. So anyway, the next book that I'm going to talk about is called Scottish and Safe by Ever Lilac, and I rated it 1 star, but like I said, now looking back, I think I should rate it 2 stars compared to The Unwanted Wife. So mind you that this one is a novella. It's very short, it's very bite-sized, you could say. Landing in Scotland, there is one thing that Beth has to do: survive the Scottish weather and find the cottage that she has inherited from her father. But her plans get interrupted by Logan Keltar, a feral bearded Highlander who looks at her as if he owns her. Taking charge, he's not afraid to show Beth just how possessive and protective he is over her body and her heart. I don't know why I picked it up, I'll admit, but yeah, I ended up reading it 1 star. Again, I could say that it's very fast paced and everything, but then it is a novella, so I perhaps should have expected that going in. That's on me. But there's a lot of it missing. The chemistry was very instant, so it didn't seem very believable for me. The background and everything, there were a lot of holes, plot holes you could say, which I think, even though it's a novella, could have been filled better by the author. So yeah, but other than that, the vibes were giving. I really love the Scottish atmosphere from what I've read in books, of course, from what I've read mostly in romance books. So I do love Highlander romances, so this is one that I got when I was looking for those. But yeah, so that's why I picked it up, because it had a guy in a kilt and there was the tartan on the cover. Very I know it's very embarrassing, but you know what, I rated it 1 star. I wouldn't really recommend unless you're looking for exactly that. It's a very quick read. So yeah, that's that. Then moving on, I am going to talk about a romance that I actually really liked, and I rated 4 stars. So I'm talking about Contractually Yours by Nadia Lee. This is book 4 in the Lasker Brothers series. So again, this is another arranged marriage romance trope. I really like the arranged marriage trope. Is that the brown Indian in me speaking? It should actually be contrary, but whatever. So let me share the synopsis. Jewelry heiress Lucienne Peary needs a husband in order to take full control of her company and arranges for a mutually beneficial marriage. When she catches her fiancé in bed with her sister, she demands to marry his older brother instead, and his family agrees in order to avoid handing over 30% of their own company for breaking the marriage contract. She only plans to stay married until her control is firmly established, but she does the unthinkable and falls in love with her husband. When the ruthless and iron-willed Sebastian Lasker is forced to marry a woman fully as scandalous as his embarrassing, disreputable father, he vows revenge. Nobody manipulates him and gets away with it. He's going to strip her of what she wants from the marriage and get rid of her. But pride and fortune aren't the only things at stake, as he realizes he can't let her go. Contractually Yours is full of yummy arranged, I think that's some typo here, is an arranged marriage, dislike to love, forced proximity, my wife moments, man groveling, and a happy ending. So for those reasons alone, I was hooked from the very beginning, and when I read it, I was not disappointed. I liked that the woman is taking charge. She demands for this arranged marriage because she is getting stuff out of it. I mean, the guy will, of course, as well. But I really liked that she was taking charge, because mostly in arranged marriage tropes in books like these, it's generally the girl's father or the guy's father or parents, the set of parents who do this, who demand this of their children. But this one was a fresh, refreshing change from that. So that was really well done. And the girl is a very misunderstood heroine, which I personally have realized that I'm really liking in romance especially. And the guy also, of course, misunderstands her for the longest time, and when he realizes it is almost too late. And so there's a lot of groveling that he has to do, and I like when a man grovels, and it's very, very fun. So there are some other tropes here which I can share with you all. It's like the arranged marriage, possessive hero, my wife, her cheating ex-fiance's older and much hotter brother. That is also a trope that I've realized I like, because that is a trope I explored quite a bit in my Mills and Boon romances. Then we have sassy jewelry heiress. We've got a grumpy jewelry CEO, who's our male main character. We've got a childhood encounter as well. And although it's not exactly enemies to lovers, it's like I mentioned in the very beginning, it's very dislike to love. There's also forced proximity, because they do have to get married, there's revenge, and like I said, he grovels, and that is something I absolutely love. And lastly, of course, it's a power couple as well. I really, really liked it, and I do have to say that if it is something that you guys are interested in, then you can also check out the Windsor series by Catherine O'Mora, which I've read the first 3 books, I believe. Yeah, the ones that come out recently, that I haven't yet read. So yeah, those were those were the 4 books that I mentioned, and then we have got our 2 physical books now, which I'll bring right about now. Alright, so I read 2 more books. Like I mentioned, I've read 6 books in total in July, and okay, the one here is Terms and Conditions, which is book 2 in Lauren Asher's The Dreamland Billionaire series, which is basically 3 brothers and them having to fulfill the will, that the conditions that their grandfather left behind if they want to inherit the empire, basically. And I really liked it, because their empire is basically it's like Disneyland, So this one, we follow the eldest brother. In book 1, what was the name of the first book? I completely forgot. Let me check here. So book 1 is Fine Print, in which we follow the second brother. This is book 2, which is Terms and Conditions, in which we follow the oldest brother. And book 3 is the youngest brother, which I have not yet read. So moving back to the second book, in this book we follow Declan and Iris, and I'm going to share a short synopsis from here. It's pretty much the same. So, Declan: I am destined to become the next CEO of my family's media empire. The only problem? My grandfather's inheritance clause. Fulfilling his dying wish of getting married and having an heir seems impossible until my assistant volunteers for the job. Our marriage was supposed to be the perfect solution to my biggest problem, but the more we act in love for the public, the more unsure I feel about our contract. Caring about Iris was never part of the deal, especially not when breaking her heart is inevitable. Iris: my plan to marry Declan was simple in theory: move in together, throw a wedding, have a baby. We set rules to prevent any kind of issues, ones that were never meant to be broken, no matter how much Declan tempts me. But what happens when our fake relationship bleeds into our real one? Falling in love was never an option, at least not for me. Again, it's boss, secretary, grumpy, sunshine kind of romance, which I really, really liked. There's also a bit of forced proximity, the arranged marriage thing. You can recognize I really like that trope and everything. So as you can see, I did annotate quite a bit in this book, and I had an overall really interesting time reading it. And would I recommend this book to you? Of course, I would recommend this whole series to you. And now that I'm done with it, I think I prefer book 2 over book 1. I have not read book 3, which is actually a bit thick, so I don't know how I will feel at the end, but so far I would say that book 2 definitely is way better than book 1. Also, like I mentioned previously, in the other book, I really love it when the man grovels, and this book has it on point, and I would really recommend it. This book also features lots of side characters, and from book 1 through book 2 we see a lot of references to Cal's past, and I am excited to pick up book 3 so that I can figure out what's up with Cal and his clause, his condition, basically grandfather's condition, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to. But other than that, Iris and Cal have a really nice relationship. Their friendship is also really good, and that is clearly seen in this book, and I think it's really done well. And like I said, Declan groveling is my new favorite scene, and I am really happy with how this has been done. Did I mention that I rated it 4-star? Yeah. So in the beginning he's kind of dry, but then we see him starting to get sassy. Their banter is really good, because as a business team, as that sort of a couple, they're really good. She's his secretary, she's been managing so much for him over the years, and she's done it all. So now seeing each of them seeing a different aspect of the other, it's really good. And of course there are appearances from the first couple from the first book, so that's really great as well. But yeah, overall it was a fun book. I would recommend this whole series to you because it is fun, it's easily readable, and I think this one is a bit on the lighter side compared to book 1, if I'm not wrong. I don't exactly remember, but yeah. Alright, so the last book that I read in July is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. Now I have been hoping to pick up this author's work for the longest time, and I'm so glad that I finally did in July. This is my first Carmen Maria Machado's work, and sadly I'm not as elated as I thought I would be. So before I share my thoughts with you, let me share the synopsis. A prize-winning, genre-bending collection of short stories that has already achieved cult status, Her Body and Other Parties is unique, unsettling, and totally original. Carmen Maria Machado demolishes the borders between magic realism and science fiction, comedy and horror, fantasy and fabulism. Bodies become inconsequential, humans become monstrous, and anger becomes erotic. A dark, shimmering slice into womanhood, Her Body and Other Parties is wicked and exquisite. So this is a wonderful female feminist telling of stories from the woman's point of view, and I think it's done well. However, I did go in expecting a bit more weird and mindfuck stuff. And by that I mean, if you've read works of, let's say, Samantha Schweblin, Mariana Enriquez, Mona Abad, you'll know what I'm talking about. That kind of weird was what I was expecting, speculative fiction. This, or on their own, these stories were well written, but since I expected something completely different, it was a bit underwhelming for me, and I ended up rating it 3 stars. I was hoping that this one would be at least 4 stars or even a 5 stars, but this ended up kind of disappointing me on that front, so I ended up rating it 4 stars. It has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It has 8 stories, and at this point the only story that I remember is the girl with the woman with the ribbon who wouldn't let her husband take it off, and then I think that's it. There's also the story called Inventory, where they're in a sort of post-apocalyptic world, which was well done. Then moving on, we have this story called Mothers. Do I recall anything from it? Actually no, and that is the saddest thing. I think I don't remember much about it. Then there's also this really long story called Specially Heinous, which is basically a kind of the author's take on Law and Order SVU, and I have to say it was disappointing, maybe because I haven't watched Law and Order myself, so I didn't really relate at all. Then we have another story called Real Women Have Bodies, where basically what happens is that women start to fade and they just disappear from earth. Basically that's what's been happening, and it's like a disease that is affecting so many women. And yeah, it was weird, but again not something that I would say mind-blowing. That was very disappointing. Then there is the story called 8 Bites, which I think really takes well from this whole idea of starving yourself, body image issues, all of that. So I think that one was well done. I underlined quite a bit. Then we have The Resident, wherein a girl, I think, goes to this place where she wants to write, and this was near the other place where she went as a scout back when she was a kid. So it's kind of weird and everything. It's almost there, but again, like I said, it just falls short. There is a section that I underlined which I really want to share with you. It's it's a line by a woman. It's a whole paragraph by a woman, which I think it's really well written. It is my right to reside in my own mind. It is my right. It is my right to be unsociable, and it is my right to be unpleasant to be around. Do you ever listen to yourself? This is crazy, that is crazy, everything is crazy to you. By whose measures? Well, it is my right to be crazy, and as you love to say so much, I have no shame. I have felt many things in my life, but shame is not among them. You may think that I have an obligation to you, but I assure you that us being thrown together in this arbitrary arrangement does not cohesion make. I have never had less of an obligation to anyone in my life, you aggressively ordinary woman. So that was that. And there was this last last story, which is called Difficult at Parties, but I don't remember much at all about it. So yeah, those are all the books I read in July, and I'm gonna end this video here. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and make sure to stay tuned. I'll probably film my August wrap up as well, and I have to say that my August reading went really much better than my July, so you might want to keep an eye out for that. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you again very soon. Take care. Peace out. Bye.